Top 100 player in the nation, Chris McClellan, has released his top 6, and I want to talk about it because it is a really solid list, and he is a player that any of these institutions would love to have a part of their 22 class, and we need to break it down. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from y'all. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no, and being that Chris McClellan is the number 3 player in the state of Oklahoma, do you believe that the Sooners are able to keep him home? Let me know what you're thinking, and if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification because I do constant college football content, and you don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed that content, be sure to like and comment down below. But with all of that being said, let's just jump straight into this. And McClellan, a top 100 player in the nation, the number 16 overall defensive lineman, and as I stated, the number 3 player in the state of Oklahoma, is ferocious at the point of attack. Standing 6'3", 295 pounds, he is a really solid prospect and one that most institutions in the nation would love to have a part of their class. His top 6 is a really solid group, so let's just jump straight into it. We have Oklahoma, Alabama, Florida, USC, LSU, Ohio State, and anytime you see these institutions, you already know this is going to be an absolute battle. And when we look through it, OU would love nothing more than to keep McClellan home, especially with Alex Grinch and company trying to revitalize the Sooners defense and really making large strides in being able to do so. But a guy such as Chris McClellan, especially because he's in-state, is really important to this class because he's a solid prospect first and foremost. I mean, whether he was from the state of Oklahoma or not, he would be an important prospect as he is to all institutions involved because he's a really solid football player. Watch his tape, really impressive. But it's only magnified when he's a top prospect in your state, a top 100 prospect nationally, top 5 in your state. You would love to be able to keep him home, but it will be an uphill battle. You know, when we've talked about Oklahoma and their battle before with a Chris McClellan, before we heard that he was very high on Florida, and Garrick McGee is involved in this battle for the University of Florida. Garrick McGee, being an alum of the Sooners and actually finding his home in Tulsa, Oklahoma, is a really powerful tool for the Florida Gators. Having that guy with familiarity to the state of Oklahoma could pay dividends for the Florida Gators, but they aren't the only ones sending their big dogs after Chris McClellan. Because if we look at 24/7 Sports, all of the recent crystal balls inserted for Chris McClellan have gone in favor of the Ohio State Buckeyes. And when you look at who it is Ohio State has sent after McClellan, it is Larry Johnson. Now, when we talk recruiting, just as I do when we're talking about defensive back recruiting, if you go back to that Gentry Williams video, I broke down a very similar thing I'm about to do right now. When you're talking about recruiting and these recruiters, and you see Larry Johnson involved, you know it's going to be a battle. Because Larry Johnson can recruit with the best of them. Not only is he a phenomenal coach, he is an incredible recruiter. And we can just look at some of the top prospects he has signed recently, whether that's Jack Sawyer, JTT, Chase Young, Zach Harrison, and he was involved in the recruitment of Nick Bosa. And that is only scratching the surface on all of the talented players this man has signed to Ohio State. This is a top-notch recruiter and a top-notch defensive line coach. So anytime you see him involved, it's much like when I talk about LSU, like I did in that Gentry Williams video, when Corey Raymond is involved. That guy has a laundry list of talented defensive back prospects that he has coached, that he has signed, and so anytime you see his name attached to a recruiting battle, you know you're in for it because he has the repertoire to bring to the table and the cachet to say, these are the names I've coached, these are the names I've signed, and I would love to have you a part of this elite list. That is a really solid pitch. But aside from Ohio State sending Larry Johnson after McClellan, which that is where all the recent crystal balls for 24/7 Sports, as I said, have gone, is Ohio State, USC is also sending Vic So'oto after him. And So'oto is interesting because he has had such a solid 2021. In 2021 alone, this man has secured Corey Foreman, the #1 player in the class of 2021 for the Trojans, and then doubled down with 5-star Michael Williams in the class of 22, 5-star defensive lineman. The Trojans are an institution that is really interesting right now because if they're able to have a successful season and put results on the field, their recruiting could only increase. Right now, they are recruiting really, really well, signing Damani Jackson and Michael Williams thus far in the cycle, which still has a long ways to go. The Trojans are a team to watch because if they can put results on the field, they're going to go on a little bit of a hot spree in recruiting, and it is going to be really interesting to see. The Pac-12 could really use a team like Oregon to continue improving, to continue getting better, but if USC could have a resurgence, that would be huge for the Pac-12, something I would really love to see. Now, Alabama is also involved in this, and anytime you're recruiting against the Crimson Tide, you know what it is, especially at that defensive line position. The Crimson Tide have done a phenomenal job recruiting that position, and Jay Valai is the one after Chris McClellan. Now, this is going to be an interesting battle to see where the Tide ends up in all of this, but as things stand right now, this is a really intriguing battle because of the players involved. Florida sending Garrick McGee, trying to secure that commitment and using the familiarity. You look at Oklahoma, and Calvin Thibodeau, Grinch and company would love nothing more than to keep McClellan home, the top 5 prospect in their state, a top 100 player overall. You would love nothing more than to have him be a part of that speed D that Oklahoma is putting together. And then Ohio State sending Larry Johnson, one of the best recruiters in the nation after Chris McClellan. That is something we have to watch, and that is something people have taken notice of, and you can tell that by the crystal balls inserted. Hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking. Do you believe that the Oklahoma Sooners will be able to ultimately secure this, keeping him home? Remember, even if someone commits now, it's not over until signing day, and that is a ways to go. And things often change in recruiting, but this is a battle we are going to have to keep an eye on. Hop down to the comments, let me know. That's it. See ya.